through web environments. And so we need to worry about web. If you don't know your organization's internal and external web interface attack surface, there's a good probability someone else does. So we need to watch out for our environments, whether it's internal or it's the organizations that we're going to assist. We have to watch out for that. And if you read our little intro to the talk, you know, there's a lot involved when you're going through and trying to enumerate your network and try to put it in a legible format that you can go through and parse and you can work with and you can hand it off to people to mitigate. There's a lot involved and it's very time intensive. So let's give us a scenario. What would you do? You're given the following objective. Assess your organization's internal and external web-based attack surface. Okay, there's one. And your end goal is to produce a report that can be provided by technical individuals for mitigation and as well as executives. So we have to go through and think about how we would achieve this. So if we look, right now there's several steps in the methodology. We've got recon, mapping, discovery, exploitation, and reporting. It's just a generalized grouping of those. But we have to go through these steps. Each one of these steps has different tools that we're going to look at, right? We would look at nmap for recon or for mapping. We would look at Youw Fuzz, or there are a lot of tools that we would pull in for each in one of these individual steps. How many people here do web assessments or do pen testing? Raise your hands. Okay, awesome, good number. How many people are blue teams? Blue team members, yeah. So there are a lot of folks here that this can apply to. You don't have to be on the offensive side to be able to ensure proactively that your environment is secure. So we need to take a look at this.
Some of the directions we're looking at are, the guys that do malware research, sysadmins, developers. This tool can be useful for them as well. Yeah, there's a lot of use cases for it. But so if we think about these steps logically in progression, the tools that we're using for mapping generally do not provide input that we can directly pull into the tools that we're going to use for discovery, right? It's a pretty big stopgap. A lot of times we have issues where most of the time that we're spending doing this, we're parsing through data. We're going through and using sed and awk, or we're catting it out, grepping it, and then cutting out the specific row that we need. And then we're feeding it back into the next tool. This becomes very, very time consuming, especially if you're going against an environment that's pretty large, that has a lot of web interfaces. Someone raise your hand. I'm not going to ask any internal information, but someone that works for a medium to large organization, raise your hand. Okay. I want to ask someone a question. I want to pick you. How many web interfaces do you believe you have on your internal network? 20. Okay. How many nodes, how many approximate systems do you have on your network in total?
Virtual or just?
Both.
Both. Probably 120.
Okay. So I'm going to believe, I'm going to speculate that you more than likely have at least double what you think you have, but you haven't looked at it. Right.
Yeah.
We had no idea. Most organizations, printers, everything runs web interfaces, network systems. A lot of us probably have no idea really how many web interfaces we have in our internal network, and that widens our attack surface, right? So, you have to be responsible for interfacing between these tools. But how much work is involved? What's your how are you going to present it? You can't just put out the technical that the tools output. You need to put it into a format that not only the technical folks can assess, but also your executives or other folks that may look at this. So the executives are going to be looking for visuals. They're going to be looking for numbers. They're going to look for things that they can directly associate a cost to the risk, right? And then your technical folks are going to need information on how to remediate or how to mitigate these issues. So what's your turnaround time? We already talked about how intensive some of this stuff is and going through and just scanning your network. And then when you start getting in beyond mapping, you're going to have to format that data. You're going to have to get it ready to look for those low-hanging fruit, those pieces of information that we want to look further into, right? So you're going to identify those, and then you're going to do more information collection, because you're going to go back through and either run an MSF, auxiliary scanner against it, or you're going to kick off another scanner that's going to look at it a little bit further, but you're going to be going in and really digging in to the meat of this.
And let's be honest, most of us have time constraints to these things. So if you got a large environment, what are you doing? You're looking for local, the quick wins, the quick hits that you can pull out of there, because to be honest, you don't really have time to dig through all that. Honestly.
All of us have other stuff to do too. A lot of us have way too much on our plate. It's just something else that we need to look into. But you'll have to format that data again. And then you got to validate your findings. You got to get all of your basically all of your screenshots and everything else that you collected during this process to prove that you found the weaknesses that you have. And you're going to have to go in and actually pull that stuff apart for the report. And then it's composing the report, my favorite part, right? So we have a lot that we have to think about, and there's a lot involved. So why you ask so many questions? We have a lot of things we really don't take into consideration when we look at. It sounds like a very simple task when we just say, yeah, let's enumerate our web attack surface. But when we get into it, a lot of us don't just have 20 websites. We've got a huge amount of web interfaces that are inside our network. So I'm going to let Adam talk about the tool and show you how we've resolved a lot of these frustrations.
Thanks, Tom. And this is actually where I stepped into the project as well, right? Tom is a phenomenal red team member. He does a lot of research. He makes sure he knows everything about an exploit, an attack, and he's a real asset to our team. So when he came to me and he's saying, yeah, we could really use something to automate this. This is taking forever. We're not going to get everything we need. Can you do something? Because I'm automating stuff that probably shouldn't be automated or mentioned.
Coder extraordinaire.
I wouldn't go that far. But I'd like to introduce you to Rawr and some crazy Photoshop skills there. So just some of the outputs there. So what we're doing, we're taking the initial recon, right? You're given a scope, you're given some IPs. If you're a dev, you know which IPs you're using. So we're feeding that into Rawr. You like that? Pretty cool. So the inputs, what all can you throw into Rawr? So the point was to get it to where you can throw pretty much anything at it, anything you guys are actually using in the field, so to speak, and have it, parse it for hosts and SSL information, anything else you can pull out of the report, right? So you can see what's up there. So we're pulling SSL search stuff for the ones that have stars next to them. OpenVAS and Expose, still working on that. I'm kind of a noob with those anyway. So if you're dumping things out of Metasploit, we pull that in as well. So a lot of the solutions you got there, including Nmap at the top, you can run that live. We've got a little wrapper around it that you can specify your range and everything. So you can do a live scan of a scope or an input list or whatever Nmap takes. Or you can pull in, say you got your Qualys scan report, right? You pull in QIDs 86,000, 86,001, 86,002, make sure those are in the scan report, and this guy will pull them in and we'll start doing our stuff on it in the middle phase. So done my best to do that. If you guys have any more formats, shoot them at us. We like to make it where you can throw pretty much anything at it. So the next step of it is enumeration, of course. The top represents the things that are done pretty much. Rawr does that for you. And the bottom are options. So default passwords. I've got a pretty long list of defaults for different network interfaces, printers, web stuff, web interfaces, stuff like that. So it will suggest things based on what it finds in the service information when it's going out on top of the server. Okay? And we're extracting as much as possible. We're talking, getting the options headers, we're different, HTTP only. We're looking for things that'll alert you guys, because I mean, this isn't looking for exploits specifically. We're looking for information that'll empower you guys to be able to say, based on my experience, I see, okay, that's CSRI 20 minutes. You could possibly do that. That identifies this as a possible LHF or an issue. So you can focus on it as quickly as possible. So the point was here, I want to take you from recon down to these last two steps as quickly as possible, and I want to give you guys some stuff for reporting as well. So we want to put all that stuff in your lab as quick as possible. And the crawl does a short spider. I mean, I didn't rewrite the edit spec, but you're going 3 or 4 levels. It's all variable. You can choose how deep you go. You can choose, you got a timeout, a maximum number of URLs. Basically, it just crawls it out. Have you guys, who works with Python? Have you ever, Chris, don't want it. No, you actually, yeah. So, so PyGraphViz, yeah, we're not going to go there. So, oh, am I talking loud? I'm not like Tom. So yeah, PyGraphViz, we're feeding it into that, and we're actually creating PNG layouts, diagrams of the website. I'll show a couple of them to you later. But we also got modules you can throw in there. So we've got a parser running, and I'm running regexes against the whole body as well to kind of supplement that, right? So you can create a module. You can create a module that will, and tell you wanted to run it on the whole document, and say I'm looking for this regex. I think I'm doing that with the Google Analytics ID. Right, we're pulling that out of the document based on a module, just putting it into the field to specify it. And that's stuff that you can throw together fairly quickly for your regex in it. Or tell it you want to go through the parser, it'll parse each tag. You can choose what tag you want, what fields you want, and you kind of get where I'm going with it. So it's pretty customizable. And you guys know about the Bing DNS resolution trick, right? Okay, so you just go to Bing, do the search for IP equals and your shared hosting IP. IP colon, right. So, and it'll pull up all the DNS names that have resolved in the past for X number of days for that IP, right? So my shared hosting provider pulls up 54 hosts. So I can run attack B with Rawr against that IP, and it'll run a Bing lookup, and it's got caching, so it's not like continually making that call. But you're resolving all the DNS names, so hopefully that'll come useful. So your outputs. This is everything honestly that I could think of to throw at you guys to this point. The HTML report, I think you kind of saw it at the beginning. We've got a CSV of all the values that are grabbed for each host. Tom likes this one, right? Because you can have a CSV up there, and it's kind of like a checklist. There's a notes field you can throw stuff in to say, hey, this kind of looks like it would be an issue. I think he'd be more of the expert on how he likes that. The attack surface matrix, how many are familiar with this? Have you ever thrown a matrix together? Okay, so you've got all your ports. So you scan a range of hosts. So you've got a host on the left side, and there's ports across the top, and you've got an X for each port, each host, right? So the idea of it is that you can scroll down there. You can look for machines that are most likely configured the same. You can look for machines that are running kind of odd ports. So that's dealing with web, and I don't want to go too far, but if you, Rawr's got an option for attack A. So if you're doing all ports, this will actually give you an attack surface matrix for all the ports on the servers. So it kind of extends to that. Don't want to get too much out of my lane here. SQLite 3 database, you guys probably already read through this. Mentioned the site diagrams, JSON objects. I want to thank Andy Gentile from OWASP Charlotte. I appreciate it. He said, hey, what if I want to automate this? I want to start Rawr, and I want to pipe the output into, I don't know, my lowponies.hi. And so it's just printing out JSON objects, right? So it's very minimal. If you want to automate it, there it is for you. Of course, the in-app OA, if you do a live scan. All your cookies, your robots.txt file, your SSL service. So I get my slide reading badge today. All right, so your recon goes in to the little cube called Rawr, and your mapping information comes out because you're getting diagrams, you're getting the CSV, you're getting the HTML that you can flip through, your discovery, and some, what? Yeah. Yeah, okay, that's discovered. Gotcha. So robots have to access all the SSL information. You can set up the CSV to show you whatever columns you want. So if you just want to do an SSL assessment, right? You set up your CSV, it's in the setup. I'll show you if you need it. I go too deep into this stuff, but you can have it show all the SSL fields. I've got the validity periods, how many more days it has, all that stuff, everything you need to know, the algorithms and everything. So trying to give you as much as we can in those areas and make it easy and quick for you, but that stuff happens, right? Error.log is the file that you want to send me or you want to take apart. What we're doing is using traceback. So pretty much anything that breaks in Rawr is going to give you, 3 or 4 lines telling you, okay, this is where it happened, this is what happened, this is the exception, tell that means to go to Python, pretty much. And it throws in an error.log, and what you can do with that, sanitize it, throw it to me. You guys probably are better at Python than I am, but if you want to troubleshoot that, I'd love to hear input. For the project, throw a couple more requests my way, it's fine. But yeah, that's out there for you. And I run into this too many times. Jim. Okay, any questions at this point? Anything you want to throw in? Right. So let's see it in action. You're the one.
All right. So we want the live demo. We'll see if we can make this happen.
Okay, while he's setting that up, I want to give you kind of a challenge. The attack surface matrix, you were talking about maybe 20 devices or 20 web interfaces on your network. If your network allows, maybe 10 seconds at a time or whatever, but I challenge you to run Rawr, give it your range, and tac M. It's -M. If you throw that in there, it'll just take whatever. Why has nobody suited me? All right, scroll down. So if you take that, throw that in there, it'll just create the attack surface matrix out of whatever input you give it. And I want you to take a look at that because that'll give you a picture of everything that's got a web interface, where it's at. Like I said, you can see machines that are most likely configured the same. It's very telling, even more so if you do it with all the ports. Yeah, this is actually an example that we just did.
All right. So, what we're going to do is, I'm going to show you real fast what would be involved to install Rawr.
I'm not sure why I want to do this. It's just very easy.
Yeah, I mean, when you see how easy it is to install it, it makes you want to do that. You'll see how easy it is to implement. I mean, seriously. I know that sounded really weird. I'm sorry. All right, so nothing there. So we're going to pull Rawr in. There's the Bitbucket page.
While he's doing that, I forgot to give a shout out to Tim Tomes for running me. That's a great place to pull your recon as well. So if you're going for that stuff, take a look at it. From what I've seen, the code is pretty solid.
All right, so we've cloned it down.
So you've got the check install and the force install. Force install says, forget it, just give me everything and set it up. Check install will actually give you a prompt and say, do you want to do this? Do you want to update this? And we're using Phantom.js for our screen grabs, so it's pulling that down. You've got your def pass and IP country. It does check the, I think it checks the version of Rawr and it tells you if it's not the latest version. But I took out the auto updater because it was just too much to keep up having to tar it up and stuff. So you'll have to actually go out and see the repo.
I'm not going to run that, but I'm going to install Python PyGraph Viz. We'll pull down our graphing.
The two dependencies are Python PyGraph Viz and Python LXML. But so LXML, so I hear, is installed by default on Cal. Am I right on that? Okay. Well, so I guess you confirmed that earlier. So those are the two things.
So we've got it installed. What are we going to do? Let's we'll take a look at DerbyCon. Oh, okay. Gotcha. All right, so
Tac SQLite, Tac expire. Tac O, Tac wash. Tac. Last couple of presentations we gave, I made the mistake of going off on each switch. I'm pretty sure I had people fall asleep though, so we won't do that. But we've got quite a few options.
we'll let it roll. So this is, it gives you the, the actual command through Nmap that it's using on the initial iteration. We're just scanning two ports, 80 and 443, against this entire, if you saw, a Linode subnet. We're also pulling out the Bing reverse DNS values, so you'll see that once it gets through this initial scan.
Of course, this is Nmap, right?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's seen Nmap, but this will progress past here in just a moment.
So what it's doing is it's, of course, running the scan, it's going to get everything done. We're doing a service versioning, a couple of verbose tags on there. Tac OA, what else are we doing? EN.
Tac open.
Yeah. So yeah, Tac open. So once it gets done with that, it's going to take it's going to pull the XML just like you would if you had a file. So that's basically what we're waiting for 40 seconds.
Yeah. It's going to go through, it's going to enumerate all of our hosts. Once it gets done, it's going to kick off the SSL NSE scripts that are going to tell us if the devices in this range have proper implementations of SSL. How many of your organizations are training people to click on phishing links for man-in-the-middle stuff? Right? I mean, most of the organizations in here, we probably don't want to admit it, but most of our organizations have very bad SSL certificate management. And so we're training our employees to click on the crap that I'll send to get a shell. We need to stop that stuff, yeah. I mean, this helps you find some of that. It's off the screen a little bit.
If this takes too long, just give it. You want to look at some of the output, or you want to wait until it starts?
Yeah, you can go ahead and go. We'll let it roll in the background. There's some fun stuff.
So this is the HTML, right? So you've got a list of every. Thank you. A list of every. Seriously, Tom, you've got it on natural story. That's gonna mess my head. Okay. So pictures of all your stuff right there. You click on it, it'll give you a nice little preview. We got something here. No. Yeah. Okay. So I didn't look at this beforehand. So where? Here? Oh. Get Shorty.
Yeah.
If you find this on your network, got some recommendations for you. But and I'm working on formatting this a little better, kind of like what's the site? Tim, you use it. Tom's. He uses right? So I'm going to format it like that and have it nice and pretty and stuff. But you'll get all the good stuff in there, the host names. This one didn't return anything at all. But hey, it's running Debian. That's good. That's good. No suggestions there. All right. Oh, well.
Question?
Yes, sir.
So you completed that step, and now you have something visual with which to interact.
Yes.
And as an analyst, and me or one of my staff, you're obviously just parsing through this visually. Are you at this point? Are you only just looking for what's visually interesting, or I mean, you sort of like clicking around to see, okay, what other what other steps? I mean, just kind of walk us through
that. Well, Tom can speak to that, but really, my point is to make it whatever is easiest for you to go through.
Okay.
If this format needs to change and it makes it easier for you, I'm all for it. Go for it.
Yeah. A lot of this, we have literally so many interfaces. Yeah, I didn't know Moxie started on Minecraft. Moxiecraft? Hopefully that's not him. That's bad graphic.
Here's the map for the slide.
So that's the PNG that's output by PyGraphViz that'll basically show you. I think we're doing what, 3 levels deep?
Yeah, this was 3 levels deep.
We're telling it not to go through and look at other external domains, but you can allow it to follow external domains if you'd like to as well. But I find it really good in this interface. So he can search for Apache. He can search for JBoss. We're probably not going to see JBoss because we didn't scan for some of the other ports. If we would have put 8080, we'd see Tomcat. We can go through and these things that are usually running as default and that are configured are probably not going to be something we want to keep out there, right? We want to at least obfuscate it somehow. We want to keep the attacker from being able to see that at first glance. But you'll see printers hooked directly to the internet. You'll find all kinds of crazy stuff.
Have you had equal success running an internal? So I've got some pretty crusty labs.
Yes.
That's actually where it's intended.
That's where it started.
Yeah, if you get intended to make, if you get out on the internet, the wide range of things. Of course, I know internal stuff is like all over us too. But if you get out there, you're going to experience so much stuff. You're going to run into a lot more, errors, pretty much. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. All of that.
The scan is still running.
Yeah.
So this is just so you can see the scan is still running. So I did cheat. I ran the scan a little bit ago, and we actually ran it against more ports than just 80 and 443. And I pulled the files back down so we can actually show you that before it completes. Because we're scanning the entire Class C right now against all of these devices that have shared hosting on them in most cases. We get a lot of results.
So you're seeing Bing to DNS. It probably is still too fast to see that, but that one DNS names. But it'll say it's in the cache if it's already been binged. You'll see you're pulling screenshots, you're pulling options. I'm looking at curses, right? It'd be a lot easier to read this view. You've got your thread status, your estimated time, what the threads are doing, because you get to the end of one spider and it's just sitting there and you're kind of going, But you can see how the queue, it's running off queues, so it's got 25 threads going right now. And bam. Oops, there is it. Oh, damn it. I want to see that. Okay. And that's the thing. So everything's going as normal, right? But that's going to be thrown in the error.log. And I'm going to take a look at that later. Game.
HTML gang wars.
Nice.
There's some funny ones going here. What I find really funny is on the shared hosting solutions, the tenants that co-locate on the same server are usually very opposing views in religion or just politicians that are going at each other's throats. They're hosting on the same server. It's kind of funny.
So we got about 500 left on this. What it's doing, and that's another thing that I'm working on. It's taking each, when it parses the host, seeing what all host names it has. Because you've got the different, the IP, the host name. You've got anything user defined or anything like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that and have it actually parse through on my list of targets and say, okay, what are the identical targets? And pull that stuff out. But Yeah, so it's going to take it's going to have 3 per. So if you run it against Google.com, you're going to maybe pull in 8 hosts, right? 4 for each port that you're running it against. So those 4 are going to be like the IP. It's got 2 or 3 different load balancing servers. It's got Google.com. So it's going to try to take screenshots of each one. If you're asking why, on an internal network, that's important, right? I assume you can agree, because some of these may, lead to the root of the directory. I don't know, and show you, the directory as opposed to the page. And that's definitely something we want to catch. Can I go back out? That's fine. So, well, they got trace. Yeah. So I don't know what you put on the printable. Right. So the printable there, basically what it does is it pulls the thing off the side and shows you all the results that you got filtered right now. So if you wanted to throw Apache in the filter and then click on printable, what this will do is make it to where you can print it as a PDF or whatever, and it will print the entire page of your results. So you can have something that's a quick, easy, and you can get it to show how you want it.
You can also upload your own logo. So say you're a consultant and you want to be able to brand this under your organization. You can in the command screen. I don't know if you saw it, the syntax options came up, but you can actually throw in your own logo. When you go to the Printable, your logo is at the top left, whatever the title of the document is that you want to specify is at the top right. And you print that out as a PDF and mail over to your folks that are adamant that they only have 20 web servers on their environment. Not to don't pick on anyone, but yeah, I mean, when they really see, it's an eye-opener to understand how many how many Apache and IIS servers and JBoss and Tomcat and WebSphere we have out there. Lexmark, HP printer, Ricoh. I mean, there's you may find your networking equipment you didn't know was out there, right? I mean, you may come across their admin panels. Yeah.
Is it doing anything to point out basic auth or any type of authentication methods that I can gather from this and determine?
It's going to pull all your headers and things like that, so it'll say, it's got the basic.
We'll show you the CSV here in just a minute, but yes. The CSV does have a column that will tell you if there's basic authentication on a page or if there's a password field. So you can go through and just look for those specific items that you can most likely at least sniff and get credentials for very quickly.
So we found Dave Kennedy's other website.
HugNet Lab. So let me show you a little bit of the CSV.
Do you have any way of going through and marking resources that you've already investigated as investigated?
Yes. Yeah. Let me show you that. Just to repeat it for the camera or the audio. Do we have any way to be able to go in and mark items that we see as high value targets? So we can go through and say I want to take a look more at this one. We can take a look at that by, I can just click right here on this, and it will leave that as highlighted. We'll look at that one. We'll take a look at this one that says it works. Right? Yeah, it does work. That is, when you click open, it actually opens that page specifically, so you're making another request. We'll take a look at Moxie's. And so we're gonna come right up here to IP list, and there's the IPs of the ports that are associated with the specific web interfaces that you've just selected that you want to dig deeper into. In what's out there right now, this has not been implemented yet, but there is a process in place where we are also putting together post enumeration scripts that are going to be out there. So say you want to take the input list that you generate from Rawr you can throw it right against our NIC2 automation script, and it will go through and enumerate each and every one of those web interfaces that you've selected with NIC2. Now, you wouldn't want to do that for everything because it would take a long time if you've ever worked with NIC2. But NIC2 usually gives you a lot of, it either gives you nothing or it gives you something that's usually pretty valuable that you can dig deeper into. Youw Fuzz, cool for password scraping off the sites. There's a lot of stuff that we can build automation scripts for that on these high value targets and things that you really want to look into more. You can just generate your input list. You'll be able to kick it directly into our post enumeration script and gather those things that you're looking for.
Does it do some kind of different? So if I wanted to run it against my environment weekly or monthly, that it would tell me what's new?
That's a good idea. I haven't looked into that.
Yeah, those are the kind of ideas we're looking for, right? I mean, when the community gets involved, we can make this thing work for everyone. So that's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, guys like Human 39 just built these cats.
Just call them out for not being here.
Just Scott, right? So, yeah, they early on they're giving advice, some good stuff. All the guys that have built tests. There's a guy named Byers across the pond. He was helping out, giving some ideas. The whole SSL enumeration thing. To tell you the truth, it didn't immediately cross my mind. He's like, "Why don't you do this?" I was like, "What? Why don't you do that?" And that's where I came from. So, really, I'm the coder. I do automation. Let me automate this for you. Try it out.
Okay, it sounds like the artist.
Tell me what I'm doing wrong, and we'll try to make it value.
Yeah, a lot of this was just me saying, "Hey, Adam, hey, I need something else." I'm learning Python. I'm in you would not want to read my code, so I'm nowhere near the level to be able to build something like this. Adam has put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this project, and it shows. I mean, it's a clean interface. It's extremely fast. He actually broke Python at one point because it was throwing so much at the system. But it's an amazing interface. It saves me a ton of work. So on a 40,000 node or 40,000 interface, what was it? No, we had 40,000 at one organization. 40,000 web interfaces. As that number increases, your workload exponentially increases, right? When you're going through and assessing all of this, I could have spent 4 months on going through each and every one of those, looking for the low-hanging fruit, looking for the little bit deeper weaknesses that those web interfaces had. This was able to enumerate all of that in about 4 days. And have it to me in all the formats that I need. And it really didn't take 4 days to form the whole thing, but the scan took 2.5 days, right? We have to worry about things when we're scanning those networks that we don't always think about, like network segmentation. You may not be able to hit the threats that you need. You may have to hop around to different locations. You got to worry about latency. You got to worry about uptime of servers, or watch out for moratoriums and things of that sort. One thing he doesn't really like to mention, but I love, is after the scan takes place, all of these requests are valid requests, right? They're valid HTTP requests. You're not making noise at all on IDS, okay? So if you already have a scan and you throw your XML into Rawr, tell it not to enumerate, not to actually do the scan, but just pull the rest of the data. All of those requests are native HTTP requests. You can even, well, downgrade is not implemented right now, but you can go through and kick that off, and your IDS is not going to catch it at all unless they're doing some crazy rate limiting, watching how many HTTP requests you're making, because they're all valid. You're not making requests against things that aren't there. And so it's very, very quiet on the internal network.
And if you are requesting things that aren't there, just stop that. Okay. So were there any other inputs that we needed to Show them, actually show them the CSV.
a little bit.
Go ahead, I'll hold the microphone.
Okay. So, one of the things you asked a little bit ago is what kind of information are we going to pull from passwords, right? We're looking for password fields. So I'm going to go ahead and pull open this CSV. So this is one of the biggest hurdles that was overcome. Okay, CSV may not be the most functional format, but when you have a CSV of all of these different pieces that have been thrown into this that are truly segmented by column, and you can parse it. Does anyone use WhatWeb? WhatWeb's awesome, right? WhatWeb is an amazing tool. But you run against more than one host, and you run into problems because all the columns are offset in the XML. If you try to parse it over, pull it over, all the columns are different because every server interface is different. So one server, may run a bunch of different services or have more information available that the tool can parse than the other ones, and that throws your columns off. So it's really hard to be able to go through and quickly look for what you're looking at. You should probably freeze that top row.
So that's the CSV. He uses this as kind of like a checklist. And there's a notes field that he puts in that since nothing's being populated to that in the script, it's going to blank every time. So he'll put in notes about what he found, LHF, take a look at this later. So you do that in CSV on one screen. You guys have the luxury of having a couple of them. Right? Have the HTML on the other, and you can kind of look at those in tandem to quickly run through that stuff. It gives you, you're able to look at more at one time, and it's in a format that you use. Because like I said earlier, these columns, I mean, this is really kind of my testing format, right? You can do this however you want. You can put the author up front if you want to. You can order it by HTML5. I don't know why anybody would do that, but it's pretty much open to however you want to see this.
So you can kind of see, I mean, it's a little small from back there, but your CSV has multiple options that may be default username passwords that you can try to authenticate to that host with.
And so email addresses, that's one of my modules. Password fields, I think that's one of them as well. There's one called jQuery that I don't have shown up in the CSV, but it's also being detected through, I don't think I'm using the parser. Yes, I am using the parser on script files and a regex and jQuery files. So that's completely how we want to do that.
Most of these guys are not putting robots.txt out there. But, yes.
Tom, is that what could be default, or is that what is valid?
That's what could be default. We're not doing any requests against that. That would show up on IDS, right? If we were rooting those interfaces. But that's coming out of the defpatch.csv file that when you do a get pull or you pull this project in, it pulls that down automatically.
So last thing here, and I don't know what's showing up with the quotes here.
This is what's called the attack surface matrix.
It looks a lot prettier when the quotes aren't there, but basically what you got, 443 and 8080 are the ones that it found on, not the ones that it was scanning, right? So anything, these are all the ones that it was able to find, and any host that was in there, it'll put an X where that port is. And if you get this, it'll give you your totals, it'll tell you who your most magnetic personalities are. This one's got 3 ports open.
So you could technically diff this file. Right? If you ran this several times, you could diff this file. It would tell you if your amount of hosts increased, decreased, if the services changed on them. So you could technically diff that. That's a very, I like the attack surface. It doesn't really tell us an exorbitant amount of information, but it does give us enough to look at to say, if you're, especially on an internal network, most of us group systems together that are of like architecture, okay? You can see that at a glance, looking at that. You can just go down through and see, oh, well, all these are the same. So that's pretty much it with the tool.
Okay, now I want to give sort of a So you guys doing these assessments, or maybe red team members, obviously devs are going to have this, but learning a language like this, Python is one that I prefer personally, but it will increase your efficiency. So like when you're going through this, things taking so long, and some of the tasks that I see that these guys do, they can be automated, just like that's where Rawr came from. So either you can link up with guys on your team that may be coders, and I want to encourage you, your time is so important, but learn by doing. Grab a small task. I think the, what is it, the SPSE? They've got the classes out there, security too, jump into it. I had to start that way as well. You may be wrestling with Python for a little bit, but I guarantee it'll help you out. And if you need somebody to encourage you, give you a hug or something, I'm there for you. I probably caused every error that Python has in it, so we can talk about it. Plans for the future, just real quick. I know we've got 2 minutes or whatever. And I want to work on the HTML appearance, SSL partial testing. Obviously, got a lot to do on that. I want to talk to malware researchers, pen testers, developers, sysadmins, see how you guys are doing it. You saw some of the diagrams and stuff. I can see how that'd be useful for some of the things. I actually use it for malware research and things like that to tell me things about the site. So I want to talk to you guys, see what you've got, and this is our information. Please get a hold of us. Contact us on Twitter. Just ping us and we will talk. Okay.
I like the hate logo.
Yeah.
Send that along.
Thanks for coming.